Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're here to discuss Armagh's huge win over Tyrone at the weekend, and I'm delighted to be joined by Aaron Kiernan, who's going to give us his views on all the action on the game that took place on Sunday. As always, we're delighted to be sponsored by McKeever's Teamwear, proud suppliers of all Armagh GA merchandise. Aaron, as I mentioned, a huge win for Armagh, probably the biggest of the Kieran McGeeney era. Certainly championship football anyway, defeating the All Ireland champions in our own backyard and completing the three in a row over Tyrone.
Yeah, it was a absolutely massive result, and one that Kieran, his management team, players should all take huge confidence and huge pride from, because I suppose as a player, that's as good an occasion as you're going to get, a packed stadium with everything on the line. And so my own personal feeling always is that there's no better time to perform whenever it matters most. So for managers and players, yeah, yesterday was definitely a very, very enjoyable day, and one that the whole county enjoyed.
And I think we've seen that in the aftermath, the streams of people running onto the field. And I think what was more impressive was Armagh's domination of Tyrone, or not. Tyrone, bar the goal at the start, never really looked like winning the game, never really got ahead again. Armagh took full control of that after the goal, and once they got their own goal, it was really, they were probably disappointed to go in at half time only a point ahead.
Yeah, I thought we started the game quite well, and the goal will be a disappointment to them. I think whenever the boys look back at it, there was maybe one or two that potentially could have stepped across to stop McKernan's run. I don't know whether it was just an issue in terms of communication early on in the game, but it definitely is something that could have been prevented. But to be fair, it didn't phase our boys at all. They just got straight back into their stride and completely dominated the rest of the half. It was disappointing to go in at half time only a point down, because definitely there was much more in it in terms of just the quality that we had and the mix of play that we had produced. But I was then worried at half time, where I thought, geez, have we just give these boys a wee sniff and a bit of hope, where that shouldn't have been the case. But to be fair, the second half, it was just more the same, really. It was, you said, a complete domination all across the field, in every aspect. I would say, realistically speaking, the only Tyrone player who come out with sort of credit would probably be Michael McKernan. McCurry did live off scraps, but I didn't even see him being anywhere near the sort of dangerous force that he was last year. And I suppose, well, we can't talk too much about Tyrone or what's going right, what's going wrong, because number one, we don't really care either. But all we can focus on is what Armagh set out to do, and did they execute it? And the answer to practically everything was yes. So again, that's just what's most pleasing. The past 6 weeks, I'm sure it would have been tough on them all, because it was so disappointing in Donegal, and to turn around and do what they did. And I didn't see it until late last night, but just Kieran Donaghy, just the one snippet that I just took out of his interview is where they just said, just forget about tactics. Let's fight. Let's show hunger. Let's show desire. And for me, that was just the biggest thing yesterday. Tactics in Donegal, I couldn't care less for them. It was just, we're at our best whenever we're aggressive. We're playing on the front foot. We're hunting men down. We're playing with energy. And I just felt we tried to mirror Donegal too much. And for me, I've said it for years, Donegal are flat. They're lacking energy. They don't have, right, Mogan and Bon Gallagher might be the exception in terms of Bon Gallagher against us in the championship. Mogan last week, where they are dangerous, not there. But as a collective, they're slow, they're ponderous, and they're boring to watch. And I felt we tried to do similar. We tried to match them in that, and it didn't suit us. And yesterday we played probably as good a mix of traditional football with a modern style, and something that suits the players we have perfectly. And it come off, and we know the draw now, and we know who we face this weekend. And I just want to see more of the same of what the boys did yesterday. Like, I don't know whether it was all the suspensions and the talk. Did we stand back? Did we try to be squeaky clean? And I don't want clipping off the ball. I don't want mouthing. I don't want taunting people. I want to see what they did yesterday, putting their bodies on the lane, going for ball, instead of standing minding your own man, then the second man in to double up, to help someone, to get a turnover, and then the pace that they were breaking at. Like, there was just so much of it that as an Armagh supporter, you're standing back and you're just filled with pride. You're going, that's exactly how I want to see our players representing us. And that was class to see. I think that's why everybody enjoyed it, because the boys represented us. They fulfilled, they played to their potential, but they just showed fight and hunger that was just, as a supporter, like I said, you'd be proud. You'd be proud to see them hitting that performance whenever it mattered most. And it did. It made for an unbelievable occasion for us all to be there to see it.
I think that's right, and it was everything that you thought the Donegal game was going to be. It was the Armagh performance yesterday was exactly what you thought Donegal was going to be. Then the flat performance against Donegal, I think a lot of people, maybe losing faith is too strong a term to put it, but just, lost a bit of trust in this Armagh team, and they've obviously gained that back now from their performance yesterday. And you're talking about the brave tackles and people putting their bodies on the line. We'll move on to key performers, and I suppose who I would have picked out is like the likes of Stephen Campbell, Ben Creeley, Greg McCabe, doing that. And as I said to you before, we don't usually mention them players. We're normally talking about Rian, Rory Grugan, Aidan Falker. It was maybe the lesser lights that stepped up to a degree yesterday, and really they were the ones putting their body on the line, and they were the ones got Armagh over the line.
Yeah, and again, it probably just goes back to what Kieran Donaghy said, and everybody took that on board then. It wasn't a case of, right, well, sure, hopefully our leaders are going to do it and so we'll follow suit. It came from everywhere, and this was from the start of the game. And like I said, that's what that's what gets the support into it. Everybody knew their role, but they delivered on it. Everyone knew their role against Donegal, but they didn't deliver on it. Yesterday, they did deliver. And there's days where things will go wrong. There's days where you'll make mistakes, but you can always work hard. Executing bad skills or whatever, that can happen. You can just have an off day, but no matter what happens, you can work yourself to the bone. You can give absolutely all you can. You can chase lost causes. You can know whenever my man's out of the game on this side of the field, but can I go and help someone else? Is there danger somewhere else? Do I have a teammate that needs a hand right now? And reading those situations and having the willingness to go and help someone else, that then becomes infectious, and then it spreads throughout the team. It then spreads to the support and gets everyone behind. And like I said, across the board for everybody yesterday. And there probably were players that you say, I don't think anyone had a poor game from an Armagh perspective. I think everyone played well, and as a collective, it was a super team performance. But again, the pleasing thing is, you said some of our top players, we know that there's more in them because we've seen it endless occasions. So that's a plus. That's absolutely a plus, that we know there is another level to go, that there has to be confidence taken from yesterday and what they did. But the big thing for me is like Tyrone looked mentally soft. They look like they've mentally lived off last year. Now, I don't know any of them personally, and I'm sure they're all good lads or whatever, but they don't have the same edge that they had. They've maybe believed their own hype. They don't have the same hunger. They might have been in the same effort, whatever. We absolutely can knock it soft after one bloody game. We need to ramp it up another bit. We need to look at what we did right yesterday. Can we get better at it? And let's go to another level this weekend. Let's not take a backward step. Forget about all the patting in the back, all the plaudits. Feel good about yourself until you went to bed last night. But this morning you wake up, you see a new draw, and you have a whole new job ahead of you again. It has to go to another level. Yesterday is not good enough now. Now the country's sitting up and talking about us again. So forget about yesterday. Can I go and do it again? And that is the big thing. It's the consistency of performing at the top level whenever it matters most. And that's the big thing that we need to do this week. They don't need to do anything different within our group. It's mentally now. It's in their own heads. Do you want that feeling again? And that feeling's not easily earned. I'd say the boys wouldn't need rock to sleep last night. They would have been exhausted. It takes bloody hard work to do what they did yesterday. But to get that same buzz, that same feeling again, they just have to do it again for another 70 minutes this weekend. And that has to be the mindset and the mentality as the week goes on.
I think that's the one positive about the draw, is it's certain that Armagh won't be complacent heading in to meet Donegal, and we'll end with Donegal. We'll talk about that later. We'll concentrate on the Tyrone game. I suppose two special mentions aren't go to Stephen Campbell and Ethan Rafferty. Stephen obviously used as an impact sub this year. Probably his worst game was the game he started against Mayo, and everything else. He was a sub in all the rest of the games. Probably come on a bit too late against Donegal to have any real impact on it. But yesterday he was just superb, all over the field, all action. 2 points, I think, from play. He said he was involved probably in the point of the game. The one Ethan kicked to him, he kicked to Rory kicked to Aidan Nugent, and 3 kicks, and it's a point. But Campbell was electric yesterday, and Ethan as well. Coming up, obviously, his 2 points are the ones that are eye-catching, but cleared the ball off the line, caught a point at one stage, and his kickouts were super as well.
Yeah, well, the 2 boys would be, I was obviously still there whenever they were joining the panel, and 2 people who I would have huge time for from the even started out. I remember, I think it was maybe on your show, I remember Stefan saying maybe early on he thought I was on his case or having a go with him, but as a person, he's someone who I always liked. He's a great fella, but I just seen the potential that was in him straight away as soon as he came into the county squad. I have mentioned it before, like he's as close as I seen coming through the county as the likes of a Diarmuid Connolly. And yesterday, I was so happy for him because I just never bought into the Stephen Campbell's an impact sub. He's too good. He's way too good to be an impact sub. And I know he wasn't performing to what I knew was capable, or what everyone knew he was capable of. But yesterday, he absolutely delivered. Like his willingness to just go at people. It's rare nearly in this day and age that you see someone who just he's just having a cut off everything. Like, it didn't matter who he was sizing up. He was taking them on, but it's the conviction that he goes with. But then it's the skill level he has. He can solo off right or left. You don't know which way, as a defender, you don't know which way he's going to take you, which is why he is so hard to stop. He's a huge, big, powerful man. But he set the tone. As far as I'm concerned, he set the tone for us yesterday in terms of his directness. He was still getting all around the field. He was getting tackles in. He was, I suppose, he typified what your modern day half forward should be, and absolutely delighted for him. Ethan as well. I'm sure it probably was a lonely enough place for him after the Donegal game. It took huge probably courage for him to agree to even give a shot at what Geezer has asked him to do. But like you said yesterday, in terms of his kickouts, fetching the ball that was going over the bar. But the balls that he got whenever he was outfield, he just played on natural instinct then. Like if that ball was passed to him and he had number 11 on his back playing for the Grange, he'd do what he did yesterday. So he just forgot it was a blue jersey and number 1, and he just went and played his own normal game. And again, similar to what Soupy was doing, it just spread confidence throughout the team. He wasn't half going. The crowd weren't getting anxious, other than obviously the one where he definitely got his gander up and lost it in the second half. But we'll give him that one. That's just a bit of goalkeeping madness that seems to be drifting into him now. But other than that, absolutely super game. Delighted for him. And I suppose it's a huge confidence booster for him going into next weekend. Donegal, well, if you don't want to go into it, like Donegal, right, they might try and press him the same way they did the last time, but Armagh went longer yesterday. And if you're going to go long, you need someone who's willing to fetch and trying to fetch. But other than that, it's the soldiers on the ground, and that's where we won the battle yesterday. Regardless of how many Tyrone men were going in for a break ball, Armagh men just wanted it that bit more. And for me, that makes life easier on Ethan to get the ball further away from our goal. But it sort of typified the spirit that was within the team yesterday and the willingness to put their bodies on the line. And it was a huge turnaround in terms of what we did against Donegal.
And just on the killer instinct, Aaron, I think I want to talk about it. We mentioned the 2 goal chances in the first half that didn't get, we got a point out of one of them, but should have got 2 goals really, or should have got 2 shots on goals. And I know Wally will probably give you a hard enough time about Rian fisting the ball over the bar, so you don't have to make much comment on that. But that was 3 goals. Armagh could have had an extra 3 goals yesterday. And while they were dominant in a game, maybe next week or hopefully further down the line when you're not as dominant and you need them goals, would you be worried at all that Armagh didn't get any of them?
No, I wouldn't be worried because we created them. So the chances were made. And also there was another one where Rory kicks a point in the second half. And if he had lifted his head, Michael McKernan had gone sleeping in front of the stand, and Rian come straight across, right on the penalty spot, and he was 1-on-1 with Niall Morgan. So that's something that can be worked on. But all that takes is video review. I'm sure Kieran Donaghy, if he's looking after the forwards, like it was the slickness of our decision making. I think one of the ones you're talking about in the first half is we're breaking straight through the middle of the balls, played Aidan Nugent on the near post. He could have get killed by Niall Morgan where the pass was to the back post. But seeing's believing. For me, how do you rectify that? Showing the videos to the team and just talking through it and just saying, boys, we get ourselves in this situation again, needs to go to the back post. Our options are there. In terms of Rian's one, I don't know. He's just going to have to explain that one himself. It's fisting point. I don't think I've ever seen him fisting a point in my life, ever.
Yeah, I think that's why it was so surprising that it was him that, the right man had it. Like you thought he was going for goal.
I think he must have blacked out or something like that there. He wasn't thinking straight, but it's not like him. So I wouldn't be that concerned. I'd be very surprised if it happened again. I would have, here you were sitting beside me, I wanted him to pull the trigger. I wanted him to finish the game completely and bury it. Or, like I said, it was just a matter of a slick hand pass. Like, look what Derry have done this year where, they've used that final fist pass straight to the man's chest to make sure to roll the ball into the back of the net. But for me, again, the big thing was we created the chances. A bit of conversation, watching video analysis. So whenever, for me, if you're watching it, you watch that back over again. If I'm the player who's breaking through and that same opportunity presents itself to me next week, automatically my mind's going straight to that. What did we talk about? What have I to do different? And I'll execute it differently. So I'd imagine Kieran Donaghy will have that nailed down tomorrow night whenever they're doing the review.
And just on the impact of the subs we've spoke about it numerous times on this show this year. I suppose Turbo coming on, getting a point, Andrew getting the last 2 points of the game. But the impact of the subs and the options Armagh have, it's decimating week on week. A number of injuries picked up yesterday again, and obviously a shout out to Conor Mackin. Hopefully he's recovered well from a serious collision yesterday. And Shane O'Neill's released a tweet last night that he'd been home from hospital and was feeling okay. So we wish him a speedy recovery. But I would imagine he'll not be available for next weekend. Paddy Burns pulled up, I think it was his hamstring. So he's not available next weekend. Just the injuries are starting to pile up, and if you're going to go any further in the championship, it's just your squad's going to really be tested here, isn't it?
It is, and it's disappointing for those boys because just the way the championship is now, it just comes thick and fast, and you have really no time for recovery. But my mindset would always be, that stuff's out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. And while it's very disappointing for those boys personally, one man's loss is another man's gain. That's why we have a squad. That's why you have boys there since last November, training 3-4 nights a week, to be able to do something whenever the need is, whenever it's asked of you. So we're probably going to see maybe a bit more inexperienced boys maybe getting an opportunity over the next few weeks. But so be it. That's what your squad is there for. It's maybe an exciting opportunity for someone new to come in and stake a claim. But in terms of what the boys did yesterday coming off the bench, it was a massive impact. To kick the 3 points that they did, it just, again, I suppose, give them that bit more confidence, but just settle the whole game. And there was just an assurance about everybody, whether you started or come on, that everyone was fitting into the same sort of game plan, just playing the same sort of mode. And also for me, the switches that were made from the Donegal game were massive. Like the impact, particularly Conor O'Neill had, starting at left half forward, Soupy, Aidan Nugent, Stephen Sheridan. They all played really well. They all had huge impacts in the game. And again, I suppose if you're a management team and you're sitting down and you're looking at what went wrong, what do we have to fix. That has to be very pleasing for them to have made the changes and for the boys then to deliver.
And Aaron, just before I let you go, we know the draw now. We know Armagh take on Donegal. The conspiracy theorist in me is screaming fix for the draw this morning, but irrelevant now. I suppose they have Donegal. When we're recording here, we don't know venue or time or date or nothing. But what do you think? I don't think it's the draw Donegal wanted. I definitely don't think that they wanted Armagh. Did Armagh want Donegal? Is this, you were talking earlier that they need consistency, they need to push on now for the next round. Is this the perfect draw that'll drag it out of them this week?
Straight away, first of all, I was disappointed with the draw because I think there's a better way of doing it. I don't think you should having to play the same team, so soon after playing them again. But right, park that's done. Let's put these boys out of the championship, put them out of misery. That's all would be my mindset. Like we're coming in on a huge high, but the focus has to be right. Like the same hunger and that has to come back into their mindsets again this week. They've lost a game that they potentially could have won. They lost a game that they didn't perform in at all. They lost a game with quite a bit of criticism, I'm sure, coming their way. And they lost a game where there were certain aspects that were badly exposed against them. Have we got a game plan? Have we got the pace and energy? And have we a skill set that can cause them way more trouble than what we did in Ballybofey? Absolutely. And now's the time to go and do it. Now's the time to, like I said, put them out of their misery and get us on to the next round. But it has to be more of what we seen yesterday. It can't, in my opinion, it can't be anything remotely like the setup of how we played in Ballybofey. In terms of they'll have big men, they'll suppose press across. It was nearly like the 65, between the 45-65. They put a lot of big men in Ballybofey. And we were going sort of short, trying to ping the ball to the wings. But Ballybofey is a smaller field, and you're a sitting duck if you're that going into that number 5 or 7 pocket because you have maybe 2 or 3 big men flattling them behind you. What we did yesterday was went long to the middle of the field a lot to Ben, and if he didn't win it cleanly, get on the ground and win the dirty ball. Because the reality is, whenever it's been expected of Donegal, particularly in Ulster finals this past few years, they haven't done it whenever it's become an absolute fight and a battle. So let's make it that. Let's put the ball out to the middle of the field. Physically, are they taller than us? Yes, they might be, but we've had boys who haven't just maybe been as physically big as other people, like your McGrains and John Max and that there around the middle of the field, but they've wanted it more than other people throughout the years, and we've been successful off the back of it. So that would be my thinking in terms of getting away from allowing them to have that press on us, or even if we do get that ball, it's such hard work then to get it up the field, and it's a slow play that doesn't suit us. So that's one key area that I think we showed yesterday that we'll be much better at next weekend. But for me, set tactics aside, the energy and the drive and the hunger and the willingness to do your own job and then go and help somebody else yesterday, that was the biggest aspect that just screamed out to me. And that was a psychological thing, that was a mental thing in terms of how our boys were up for the game and performed yesterday. And it's just more of the same. Like I said, I can live with any tactics, but to see the way they went after every situation yesterday was massive, and that's the biggest focus this week.
Well, we'll be looking ahead to that game, obviously, with previews and podcasts, and we'll be continuing with match reports and interviews following the Tyrone game, so keep an eye out on all our social media pages. Aaron, thanks a million. It was great to hear your thoughts, and as usual, we'll be back with a preview show on Thursday, and we'll be looking ahead to the Donegal game. Cheers, Aaron. I'll speak to you. Hopefully we'll be on again next Monday, and we'll have an all win to talk about.
Cheers, Sean. No worries.